This is Mark Kraska presenting how to install a Calaquendi inside a white cab. It is a little bit complicated, but we provide all the adapters you will need to do this. And if it's not an option, we also provide the lights. First of all, I'm going to show you, this is where the I/O board for white cabs lives. And what you can see right here is I've got some pass-through cables that I've got connected here, which I'll show on player 2 how to hook up properly. But I do a pass-through cable for I/O and pass-through for power. And then you have holes right here, 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 and here for routing. But you notice where the Calaquendi should live, which is right here, this blank space, all the wires have to go through this hole right here. So the cables have to be kind of routed very meticulously. But I've already made them long enough for this particular cab, so it's not a big deal. These LED modules I purchased, I actually epoxied them myself so that there's no risk of a short, and I tied them down with a little tie strap there. They draw about 70 milliamps each, and they produce plenty of brightness at that level. So the grand total draw is only 560 milliamps for all 8 panels, and that's kind of the max you want to be if you're drawing power while using the white cab's pad I/O. Alternatively, you can externally power it like one of our customers wants to use, and in that case all you need is the connection to the I/O. So you can see how I've routed and centered an LED module in every one of these panels here. And you can see how the cable comes through. Some of them are a little tight. Now, it is important also to note that I have specific code that will come with this for player 1 versus player 2. The intricacies of that is something beyond the scope of this project, but it's kind of the way it goes. And then of course, when I have my cables routed, you have a power cable right here, which goes in only one way on the power connector itself. And then the I/O connector right here, this little 3-pin guy, I make it so you can't screw that up because it only plugs in one way. Note how I've mounted the Calaquendi. I've cleaned off the pad and I put little sticky pads there with zip ties and made it so that there's no way this could actually like short out. And another thing I do to make it extra careful is I've put hot glue to tap off all these jumpers in case these jumpers ever get messed up while vibrating with the gameplay, including this capacitor. It's important also to note that this switch is for debug purposes only, and it should never be turned on and off while it's inside the white cab. Another thing to note, you should never ever plug in to the USB while a white cab is turned on. This is meant to be plug in and use only. Player 1 side was demoed. Let's look at player 2. So player 2 is all hooked up here, but it's not hooked up over here. So you got power, and that's pretty straightforward. But let's look at this I/O connector. So I've already disconnected it. This is the I/O connector for player 2. It's a lot more accessible. Just a little 3-pin header and a 4-pin housing. My adapter board cables come with this. Essentially, it can receive that cable right there and pass it on as this blue connector to the I/O board. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. As they are the exact same JST parts, you can't really goof up plugging it in, and it goes in nice and snug like that, and it's got a nice little locking tab. Now getting this into the I/O board is just a matter of finding a place for it to fit, and it plugs in very nicely like that. So, and I didn't remove the panels, but basically you can imagine that player 2 and player 1 are identical with how the wires are routed, and I've done it correctly for all of these. And I have the Calaquendi placed like this, but the reality is if you wanted to place it the other way, that'd be fine since it's all custom wiring. And the beauty of all this is by doing this, I don't need to mess at all with the cabinet wiring as you see here. If I turn on the machine now, you will see that the Arduinos program themselves, and one green light turns on and it flickers occasionally, and the I/O boards, if they're happy, will be flashing like that. And those are good because now we're not messing with the original I/O of the board itself. As soon as the data loads up for the game, you will see one of those lights in the middle turn on both of them. Okay, and when you see that, that means that these Arduinos are detecting that the game is in no input mode. And no input mode means that it's waiting for a test pattern and there's no buttons pressable. But of course, as soon as I start pressing on these, they start lighting up. And I'm not going to step on these, obviously, but not to blind the camera. If I press that, that turns on, no problem. And that turns on, no problem. So, that is the demonstration of how the Calaquendis can go into a white cab without trouble. And I've already shown in other videos that doing this does not interfere at all with the white cab I/O boards. But I want to warn any users that use this. This is irreplaceable, your white cab pad I/O. So at all costs, all caution should be made whenever you're installing with this, which is why I am actually offering a service where I am willing to fly out there and install it for you with my expert care, as I have a master's degree in electrical engineering and I have not blown up this cab. But not in these COVID times, that may not be possible, but I just wanted to make sure that that's an offer for everybody to understand. Thank you very much for your time.